This is Lesson 104, Saxon Algebra 1/2, the second edition. And this lesson is going to cover two different things. One is distributive property, and the other is estimating higher order roots. Higher order meaning more than something squared, or the square root of something. Okay, let's start with distributive property first. Here I have this term, and I can work it two different ways. I can say, do what's in the parentheses first. 2 plus 3 is 5. And then multiply by the 4 on the outside and I get 20. Or, a new way that you're going to learn is called distributive property. And when I use distributive property, what I'm actually going to do is distribute this 4 over everything that's inside the parentheses, over the 2 and the 3. And I'm going to say 4 times 2 plus 4 times 3. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. And 8 plus 12 is 20. So you see we get the same answer, but if your directions from now on say use distributive property, then this is the way you're going to want to do it. Okay, so in this example, I have worked it out for you. 4x plus y. Now, this is the reason we use a distributive property in algebra, because in algebra we move from using numbers like 2 plus 3 to using variables that we don't really know what number they stand for. So we can say in distributive property that 4 times x plus 4 times y would be the answer here, because we can't simplify it anymore. We don't know what x and y stand for. Alright, this says use distributive property to multiply 4 times x plus 2y minus 8. So we distribute this 4 over every term, every single term. That's why it's important to know what a term is. And then we multiply each one. So 4 times x is 4x, 4 times 2y is 8y, and 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. So this would be the answer to this problem. And another example. Here we're going to distribute the 3x over the x squared, the negative 2, and the positive 2x. Now I want you to get in the habit of always, even though this has the 2x here and the negative 2 here, let's always go in what is called descending order of the variable. So here we have x squared, and then we need to have x, and then we need to have a term with no variables at all. So 3x times x squared is 3x cubed. 3x times 2x is, and I need to fix that, 3x times 2x is positive 6x squared, and 3x times negative 2, here is 6x, and then I'm going to rearrange it just like I just said in descending order of the variable. 3x cubed plus 6x squared minus 6x. And this is the way I'm going to want you to write your answers. So be careful to do that, and remember to do that. Alright, the second part of the lesson is called estimating higher order roots. And you can see that here we don't just have a square root of 250. We have the cubed root of 250. And it says estimate to the nearest whole number, no decimals. Alright, so what this means, cubed root of 250, it means something times something times something equals 250. And it has to be the same number in all three. Alright, so let's try. Remember, cut and try. We're going to try 3 and see what 3 is. Well, 3 cubed is 27. So that's way too low. So let's try 6. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 times 6 is 216. We're getting closer. If we go to the next whole number, 7, 7 cubed is 343. Well, 343 is too far away from 250. The closest we can get, just using a whole number, is 216. So the answer to this would be the cubed root of 250 is approximately 6. This example says estimate the fourth root of 390, again to the nearest whole number. So what this means is the same number 4 times equals 390. Alright, so let's try 5. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. 5 to the fourth power is 625. That is way too much. 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 is equal to 256. It's not 390, but it is much closer to 390 than is 625. So we would have to say that the nearest whole number would be 4. So let's do our practice problems. We have 3 that are distributive property, and let's just go ahead and do that. We're going to say 4 times 3x squared plus 4 times 2x. Well, 4 times 3x squared is 12x squared, and 4 times 2x is 8x. 3x times 2 and 3x times x squared. 3x times 2 is 6x. 3x times x squared is 3x cubed. And because I said to go in descending order of the variable, I'm going to turn these around. 3x cubed plus 6x. And this is going to be what I write for my final answer. In C, we're going to multiply this times this times this, and this times this. And the sign in front always goes with the number that comes after it, okay? To help me remember here. Okay, x times negative x squared is negative x cubed. X times negative x is negative x squared. And x times negative 4 is negative 4x. This is already in descending order of the variable, 3, 2, 1. So this would be my final answer. Alright, D and E are going to be estimating higher order roots. D says the fourth root of 750. Alright, well, we know earlier we tried 4, and 4 times 4, oh no, I'm sorry, we didn't. We tried 6, and 6 times 6 times 6 was 216, and what would 216 times 6 be? 36, 9, 1296. So 6 is way too far away. So let's try 3. We know that 3 cubed was 27, and 27 times 3 is only 81. So 6 is way too much. 3 is way too small. Alright, let's try, I think before we tried 5, and we found that 5 to the fourth was 625. Since we know that 6 was too much, it went way over, it was 1200 and something, then 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 at 625, then 5 would be our answer to the nearest whole number. Okay, in E, we have the fifth root. Now I'm going to tell you something. Generally, the higher the root number, the smaller is going to be the number that you're looking for because it's going to have to multiply so many times. Alright, so let's try 3. We know that 3 to the 4th was 81, and 81 times 3 is 243. Alright, so that's close. It's a little bit over 200. Let's try 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So 2 is way too far. So the nearest whole number to the 5th power would be 3. And that is how you do it. You just kind of have to pick a number and guess, but the higher this number, the smaller number you want to start with. Good job. I'll see you next time for lesson 105.